What's up guys, it's Oblivious Gamer here, and today I just wanted to talk about Alice Gear Aegis CS Concerto of Simulatrix. The game recently came out on PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch in Japan. Personally, I was curious about the game because of its combat, which we have here like our characters wearing like some mecha parts and fighting with weapons, and it's like all this 3D flying around, and I was like, this seems interesting. I really didn't came expecting much, but I ended up being quite surprised that I actually was having fun playing it. Now, before I continue, if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe. Alice Gear's Aegis CS Concerto of Simulatrix is a game that is based on Alice Gear Aegis, a Japanese mobile game that came out in 2018. Currently, there's also like an OVA available you can watch, and it's supposed to receive an anime adaptation, and it's premiering next year if you're interested. I came to this franchise without knowing much. I was just interested in the combat and the gameplay, since like, you know, it's third person arena fight, you have like melee weapons, range weapons, like suits have 2 skills, also characters have unique specials, weapons have their own specials, you have teammates, so you do like 3v3 fights, and in all honesty, at the moment it looked fun. Now, the game is only available in Japanese. At least for now, no word on if it will be released in the West. I don't feel you need Japanese to play if you're interested, as the content is very straightforward, and like a lot of the menus have like parses, like in English literally says single, multi, costume, shop, so you will be able to figure stuff out. Now, you have single player, multiplayer, customized shop, collection, and options. Single player basically has a story mode, which you pick a character from like the roster that is available, and then you go through their story mode. Now, the story is just fairly straightforward and typical from these types of games. You do some fights, and from time to time you get like some dialogue scenes with a bit of like cutscene, but not much, so if you don't understand, you really aren't missing much, at least in my opinion. I also don't feel the story is like great. It's very atypical for these types of games. Now, when you have your character, the game sort of lets you choose the path you take as you progress through the days. And you can choose some routes with like harder fights, which mean like better rewards, or choose certain routes which gives you like more items. Now, the story mode will be a bit important because here's where you will earn the currency, and you will need money to buy your weapons and gear for your characters because you start out with very basic stuff. And once you unlock the gear, that's when actually things get a bit fun because of the uniqueness of the weapons and gear. This also means you might have to do some grinding to be able to get the money and unlock gear. I mean, there are other modes, but the other mode that I've seen that gives you like good amount is multiplayer, and well, most of your matches are gonna be with Japanese people, so depending on your connection, it might not be that viable. You can also unlock like cosmetics to make characters look a bit different. Then in single player you have free battle, and in free battle you have team battles, single battles, which is 1v1s, and like a battle royale. It's mostly like a free-for-all if I'm being honest, and it's fun and it's done locally, so you can just play and like have a blast. Then you have a training mode, which is quite nice to have, as there are some combo routes. You might want to practice movement, learn how like the characters move. There's also like a variety of weapons and gears that like you might want to learn how they work and like what are their routes and what are their specials. So it's pretty nice. Then you have multiplayer mode, which you have 2 options, casual and rank. Rank seems to have only team matches, while casual has team matches and the free-for-all mode. Then you have customized, where you can equip the gear, weapons, and even customize the color of your character's gear and, you know, her outfit. There's a total of 22 characters, so you have quite a lot to mess around depending on what you like, especially with the weapons and their affinity towards certain elements, and of course their gear. So the way everything works is you have a top part, which is like the top part of the mech, then you have a bottom part, which is, you know, the legs, then you have a melee weapon, and then you have a ranged weapon. You can customize your character to use most gears. There are exceptions, especially the stronger type of gear, and there's certain gear that your character prefers, and you will see like an icon, so you know like, oh, this character prefers these type of weapon. So it's a bit easy to find, okay, what weapons work best with the characters. Especially like the stronger version of the weapons, as a lot of gear have like two versions. The cheap, more like in quotations weak version, and you have the stronger version, which is the stronger versions are the one that are only available to their characters. You can still though mix and match other sets of gear, so you can still create something a bit more unique depending on what you like and practice and see like if it fits to you or not. Just be mindful of like what the character prefers or what weapons work best with them. Two things to note is that gears of course have stats, especially weapons. Some is like not as big. It really depends on the weapon. Some stats have like a very increase in what they can do, others not much. And another thing is there's also elemental affinity, which is important, since if you have like a fire elemental affinity gear, fighting against someone who has a water affinity gear might prove to be a bit challenging since they have the elemental advantage. It's not impossible, but they will definitely do a lot more damage to you. There's also skill modules which have like small stat boost, and you can play around with what there is available, and you definitely want to put them to your character. Then you have shop, which of course this is where you buy all your gear. There's quite the amount, as every character has 2 weapons, 2 melees, 2 top parts, and 2 bottom parts. One is like the cheap version, which is more accessible when it comes to money, and the other is a bit more expensive. So you can at least start with some gear, and as you get money, you can buy the more expensive, nice looking ones. You also find cosmetics that you'll be able, as I said, to make your character look a bit more unique. So you can purchase the cosmetics or you can unlock them depending on like your character ranking up, because each character have like ranks, or depending on like if you're doing certain like challenges in like story mode that will help you unlock. Then you have collection, which is just gallery mode. The gameplay so far has been fun for me from what I've expected, and it turns out there is quite depth, as there is movement since you're flying in this 3D space and you can boost, dodge with from side to side, you can raise yourself or lower yourself. And then of course you can also boost as you raise yourself or lower yourself, and that will help, as some projectiles have tracking and you're constantly targeting an enemy. So it works like virtual on or like maxi boost on, where you're constantly like having to track someone. So when you fire your weapon, depending on the range, you will see if like it will actually be able to like follow them. So of course boosting and moving is a big part. Sometimes like in some arenas there are items floating around and you can use that for cover. That is just the movement. You also have the weapons and the gear aspect. So you have a melee weapon, and this melee weapon have routes, especially like when you press a directional button. Some weapons have special moves like the katana, where like when you press down in your melee move, you can charge it and like it throws a projectile. The hammer can be slow, but depending on the route that you're doing, it can pack quite the punch, and it gives you like a bit of armor. Like the weapons also make the characters feel unique. You also have your ranged weapons, which vary from machine guns, rocket launchers, submachine guns to snipers. You can charge the weapons too, and for example, the sniper, you can charge your shot, and when you're charging your shot, it gives you like free aim. You also have like 2 skills or abilities, depending on how you want to call them, and one skill is associated with your top gear, and then the other skill is associated with your bottom gear, and they're all different with unique properties. One character, for example, has a bottom gear that like gives you your health back, while another has like a charged projectile that you can throw. Another one has like missiles that they launch. So it's really fun to learn what skills you have depending on what gear and like what weapons you're having. Then you have like SP bars, which are on the side. You have 3, and they're very easy to charge as you're fighting, moving around. And each character has a unique special that uses 3 SP bars. It's like their strongest move. Then each weapon has a unique SP move which uses 2 SP bars. Then when in a team battle, you can use 1 SP bar to call for an assist from your teammates. As I'm playing and the more I'm learning, I'm like, wow, this is quite fun, as I feel there is some depth here, and I just have to practice more and get used to how the game works, the movement, and it's been enjoyable. Now, do I recommend this game? Especially, you have to import it or find a way to get it. Well, here's the thing. If you're gonna play by yourself, it's a bit hard because it will depend on your enjoyment. So for example, do you think this is the gameplay or the style that you enjoy playing? And also, are you comfortable playing offline most of the time? Because you will have to play a lot offline to unlock Gear, because you can play online. The problem is the connection. Remember, the game is not out in the West, so you will be matching with people in Japan. And from my experience, at least living in North America, the connection can be okay to like, holy shit, this is fucked up. Also, because this is not a big franchise, I'm also not expecting like a giant population of players. So unless you and your friend decide to get the game together, playing single player I think is your way to go. And if you don't like that, and if you don't like a little bit of the grinding that you will have to do, I think you are fine skipping this until it comes to the West, because the game is 7,480 yen, which roughly at the current time it's like $52. So you can wait for it if it decides to come out for the West, or I would say wait for a sale. But if you're someone's like, oh, I want to try the game, I think this is something that I like, and I don't mind playing the single player and just grinding it out, then yeah, get in. I think it's fun, it's unique, and definitely can be enjoyable. But yeah, that's just me, guys. I think my impressions are very positive for what I was expecting. As always though, it's not just about me. What are your thoughts, guys? This has been Oblivious Gamer, and I hope you'll have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.